The written reasons behind the 8-month ban for the Brentford striker Ivan Toney was released by the Football Association. The 27-year-old was actually given a shorter ban from football because of a diagnosed gambling addiction. The Commission reduced his 11-month sanction by 3 months. The Bees forward admitted to lying during his first interview with the FA, but eventually pleaded guilty to 232 breaches of the FA's betting rules. Now, before the FA's Commission made public the written reasons and the findings of that hearing for Ivan Toney, the England manager Gareth Southgate made it clear that he would not be turning his back on the striker.
Look, the ban is the ban. It is what it is. What bothers me is we've got to look after people, and he's injured at the moment. What does he do about getting fit? What does he do? How do we give him some structure over the next few months that he can develop himself or be a better person at the end of it or have experiences that he might not experience? So I don't like the idea that we just leave somebody that they're not allowed to be a part of the football community. I don't think that's how we should work. I don't think that's how the best rehabilitation programmes would work.
OK, so that was Gareth Southgate speaking earlier in the week. Yesterday, the Bees boss, Thomas Frank, also spoke about it. He echoed those comments by Gareth Southgate, and Brentford have said they will not be appealing the length of the ban and will offer Ivan Toney their full support to deal with his gambling addiction. So let's just quickly run through some of the points from the written reasons then. And as pointed out, there was a psychiatrist who had spoken to Ivan Toney a couple of times and had, as a result of that, diagnosed him with a gambling addiction, an addiction in gambling that was far more reaching than just football. It was on a number of different things that he would bet on. Of the 232 breaches, 126 bets were in respect to matches in competitions in which Toney's club at the time participated in. 29 of those bets were in respect of the club that Toney was playing for at the time. 16 were on his own team to win 15 different matches, of which he played in 11 of those. He also bet on 13 matches on his team to lose, although Toney was not playing in any of those matches. It transpires it was betting on Newcastle to lose whilst he was on loan at Wigan. And also 15 bets were placed on Toney to score. So you can, and look, as I say, the Commission's report actually had said that the FA wanted a 15-month ban initially, but because of his admittance in the end in the hearing to the charges, to initially lying and then actually coming forward and saying that he had basically lied, they reduced that to 11. And then once he was diagnosed with this addiction, the Commission also decided to reduce that further to 8 months. So that's why Brentford probably won't appeal, because they feel he's probably been given the most lenient of sentences. It's still an interesting one, and I've already spoken about this many a time. It's a very difficult situation for me to talk about because I'm biased. It's my club, and it's a player that is involved in my club, so it's very hard in that sense to speak about it. I do think Gareth Southgate and Thomas Frank make a very, very valuable point in the sense of when you're banned from all football activity, I'm not quite sure why you're not allowed to train, why you're not allowed to have your rehab. Why that to me feels very counterproductive, and also feels like it's a double punishment. Totally get that he should be banned because he's now being found guilty, and we know why he's being found guilty. That is not a problem to me. And now we know that there will be no appeal because there's been the most lenient of sentences. I just think there has to be a conversation about, well, what is actually best for the player?
The boy's got a problem. He has got a problem because of the number of bets he's having. Now, he's used other people's accounts to get bets on. Well, and that's where I ended down the road of misleading the FA.
The concealment.
So I see all the issues. I see all the issues is here. The only way for Ivan Toney to get through this is to him come totally up front of what he's done. They've not even mentioned the size of the bets, which is important to me. Because
although the Commission's report said they didn't think it was relevant, but you've said it is important.
It is important, the size of the bets, because a lot of the games that, like you said, he'd bet against his own team, he wasn't playing and he wasn't, it's like as if it's inside information. I always felt he had to get banned. What do you do once you ban them? Well, you don't isolate them, that's for sure. You don't discard them and they can't do anything. That's not a good idea at all, because one thing he probably will do is go and do gambling in some sort. This will be a big learning curve. The only thing I'd say to Ivan Toney, get as much help as you can, Get through this as quick as you can. And remember, further down the line, is your football career is really short, okay? It's really short. It goes in the click of a fingers, your football career. Don't let it be affected, because you can be labelled in football that maybe, your gambling problem. I know, because I've had this conversation with many managers, and me and you have had this conversation off air now. I know there's a lot of players, especially in the lower leagues, who are gambling way too much and way beyond their means. And that, I get a bit frustrated, because we have people who own football clubs who are in the gambling industry, and there's a number of them. And the FA seem quite comfortable. There's sponsorship everywhere. We have sponsorship on this show. But there is more compliance now than there's ever been to help people. And that's what Ivan Toney will need and get. But you want the support from the FA, not throwing the kitchen sink at him.
Yeah. It's an interesting one, and you're right. And the FA have said that he will go on a counselling course as part of his rehabilitation, although when that begins, I'm not quite sure. And does that...
I don't really get... Now, I really don't understand this idea that it's good that he doesn't participate in training or go to...
But this is exactly my point. I don't understand that either. For me, it feels like a double punishment. And yes, there has to be a punishment.
If he's going to get over this and get through this and become out of it a better man, and someone that can play his final years of his football career in a better way, he needs to be around people on a daily basis, having enjoyment, looking forward to getting up. I mean, it's going to be really... Imagine not doing something for 9 months and you think, getting up, I can't kick a ball. The thing I love most, I can't kick a ball. Now, you've done something wrong. You're going to... Obviously, that's going to come with a punishment, which it has, and it's quite severe, in my opinion. Some people say it should have been longer. But he's got to get through it. And if he's going to get through it with coming in, embracing what's been thrown at him, he'll be a better person for it.
Well, a couple of things very quickly to just mention as well. I don't think it particularly helps when headlines are like, Toney bet on his own team to lose, Toney backed his own club to lose in gambling spree. That's some of the headlines I'm seeing in the papers today, which will, of course, delve into a little bit more detail in the next hour. Why I say that doesn't help is they're not putting into context the fact that, yes, he did back on his own club to lose, but that's his parent club when he's on loan elsewhere.
Yeah.
So as the Commission's report says, there is no position that Mr. Toney did or was even in a position to influence his own team when he placed bets against them. So I'm saying I don't think sometimes
that's
these
really
headlines...
important.
Yes, absolutely. And that's also the problem, I think, that a lot of people have seen headlines and they've just gone off on one on a big witch hunt and saying it's all about match fixing, which it's not, because, again, the Commission has raised that point when they say this case is certainly not one of match fixing, and if it was, it would be at a higher level.
Absolutely.
And it probably would be a criminal thing as well. This is not the case at all.
He would have got a long ban, as in probably a lifetime
Absolutely.
ban. Match fixing is a completely different thing, which this is clearly not.
No, exactly. That isn't to say that he shouldn't be punished.
Yeah.
We know he should be, and I keep reiterating that. Problem is, sometimes they clip things up on our social media account, and we don't get all the right things in. But and there will be people saying he should have been banned for longer. And again, that can be debated. But the Commission, the independent Commission, believe that the 8-month ban is fair, starting from this point. And again, some will say, well, why does the summer come into it? They don't really explain why, actually, in the report that is, but they just deem it's fair that it starts now. So, But ultimately, I think we're both in agreement that, yes, he has to serve the time, but he still needs the support of the football community. And he also I just don't get the all football-related activity. Gareth Southgate doesn't understand it. Thomas Frank doesn't understand it.
Managers,
they don't
players.
understand the vagueness of it. What does that even mean? So is he not allowed to just come to the final game tomorrow, for example? Which I wouldn't expect him to anyway. But Thomas Frank's even like, am I allowed to speak to him? Gareth Southgate, am I allowed to speak to him? Nobody knows. It's very vague. Be nice for the FA to clarify that as well, just so we can all understand it. But it's kind of done and dusted now. We know why he has been given that 8-month ban, and he will have to serve his time because Brentford will not appeal that, so it will not be reduced any more than it already has been due to the Commission's findings. But yeah, it's going to be a subject that will be debated, I'm sure, for a long time as well, on it all. And you mentioned about Ivan Toney and whether or not he'll come out and say something. He did put a little message out on social media saying that he will speak at some point with no filter, he said.
Good.
So it might be an all very honest conversation that we'll hear from him.